What have I done? Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And don't be scared by my little intro blurb there. I sounded panicked, but I was just kidding. Kinda. Welcome to part 2 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale Panzer II US capture project. So in the last video, I started working on clearing off all of the detail that needs to be removed to be replaced with photo etch, and also worked on some of the modifications to match the reference photos for the vehicle that I'm doing, which, real quick like, is this here. It's Panzer II captured by I can't remember which one it was, a Ranger battalion in Tunisia, and they put some US markings on it. I guess they evaluated and everything else, but there are some unique features to this one compared to other North African Panzer IIs. We'll talk about those probably later, but there were some modifications that I had to make. One of those being cutting the straps off from around whatever this was or supposed to represent, because on the vehicle I'm doing, it's actually a toolbox, so I'm going to have to do some modifications there. And I had to modify what needed to be removed on the fenders. For example, according to the photo etch instructions, this was to be removed. This side tool bin or storage bin or what it was supposed to stay. On the vehicle I'm doing, this stays. This over here is a jerry can rack instead of a bin. So now I can start working on this stuff. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the lower hull. And my plan is to do the lower hull and then glue the top on and then do all the details. I don't want to do it separately, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure this is anchored onto the lower hull really well without having to worry about knocking photo etch parts off. I am, however, going to kind of test fit some of these parts. So let me get some of these fenders out and we'll take a look and see how they're going to work. Okay, so this one here fits fine, and it's a little, the plastic part is just ever so slightly wide, but only in the front, and it's this part here, because this all lines up nicely here and sits flush along the edge. And there's this, just an ever so slight ledge right here of plastic. And I could attempt to shave that down or something, but there is a very real possibility that I would totally screw it up. So this is one of those things, and there's a lot of people would say, oh, you're copping out, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe so, but I think perhaps I'm going to live with that. Maybe. I'm going to look at it a little bit and determine if I want to take the chance. See, like this side here, it's not like that. This one is the exact size of the fender. So with that in mind, I would only have to do it on one side. I don't know if you can see it in the video. Let me zoom in a little bit. But if I butt this up against this outside edge here, totally flush. See what I'm talking about right here? There's a little bit of a ledge. Very, very small amount. And I would have to remove that somehow. have to remove that somehow without damaging it beyond repair. So let me take a look at that, see what I'm going to do. Okay, I think I've successfully narrowed it down, and here's what I did. Put a piece of tape on here to protect this top plate here, and using a 220 sanding stick, I just sand, test fit, sand, test fit. And to test fit it, I put this straight edge along the side to make sure that I'm getting this outside edge lined up with the outside edge of the fender, the kit fender. And then I just simply push it up against, and it looks like voila. Now once I get it glued and painted, I may discover that I haven't succeeded at all, but it looks pretty good. So what I need to do now is kind of sand that, kind of smooth that out. Because of that 220 grit sandpaper, so I'm going to use this or sanding stick. So I'm going to use this 400. There we go. That looks pretty good. All right, so I think that'll work. So now I'll peel this off, and I should be good to go to glue that first piece on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the front, because I want, oops. First, I'm going to make sure I'm using the right piece, and then put that right here like this. I'm going to glue and make sure this front edge is super flat. Lined up. And then work my way back. And I'm going to use these clamps right here to clamp them in place. So if I get a little bit of plastic sticking out, that is workable because I can lightly sand that and hopefully not bend the photo etch in the process. But it looks like it lines up really well, so I should be okay. So to glue that, I think I'm going to use my black slow dry super glue, CA glue, whatever you want to call it. Super glue is actually a brand name, sorry. So I'm going to squirt some of it in this little deal here. Now I may not do all this on camera because I'm going to be moving around a lot and stuff, and I'm going to get my noggin in the way, so it'd be just a waste anyway. So let's see here. Give me one of these things here to applicate it. And if any comes out the edge, it's no big deal because I can sand it back. If you're wondering what I'm using here, it's a needle that's been heated and stuck into a piece of sprue, and the needle eye had the end of it cut off to create like a little fork. It holds CA glue really well. All right. So I'm going to monkey around with this and get it in place. And there it is. So I'm going to let that dry up, and hopefully it will work. Okay, I gotta say that seemed to work pretty well, so I'm pretty stoked. So got that one on. So now I'm gonna get a little bit of black on there, but it'll be okay. Just a little bit here. See if I can get that scraped off. Okay, so the next one I'm ready to do is the other front. Now, like I said, this one seems to fit a little bit better. It's still got the same situation there with actually, yeah, that fits really well. So I'm not going to have to do any sanding like I did on the other side. So I'm going to do the same thing as before and glue this on there. So you kind of saw me do the other one, so I'm going to do this one off camera just to make it easy. Okay, in looking at this, I'm going to have to get creative here. So we have, this box had to be removed for this particular version, but the photo etch set only supplies the piece for here, making this part would be left in place. This side over here is long enough for this, because that's where it's supposed to be, because this box is supposed to be removed. However, I didn't remove it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to saw this box off. I'll put this in place and then put this box back once I detail it. And this side over here, I think I'm going to have to get creative. I'm going to have to figure out something for, there's a rack that goes here as illustrated here. The only problem is it doesn't go all the way up. So the only way I'm going to be able to fix that or deal with that see, this goes back here, but it doesn't cover enough. So I got to figure out something for right there. I guess I could, since they don't cost very much, I could get another set of this and use one of the longer pieces for here, because I could cut it here. As a matter of fact, this very piece would be the one to use. I could cut it here to put there, because there is a if I'm not mistaken, there's a brace that goes across, so I could just put that over the joint, and then this would sit, I think, close enough there. Yeah, see, that would work. So I think I'm going to see if I can get another set of this, and then I can handle that. But in the meantime, I'm going to cut this box off and I'll glue this piece on. Okay, box came off. I was able to stand it up really well and get it ready for detailing. Got this glued on. That worked out good. And so I think I am ready to actually start doing some of the plastic assembly. Now, as far as this goes, I did order another set, so I'll be able to use a long piece there. Now, some of you may be asking, wow, that seems like kind of a waste to buy another whole set just for that. Well, here's the deal. I have another one of these that I started before, and I kind of did some stuff that wasn't going to fit for this particular vehicle. So I put it back in the box, ordered this new one, and here we are. However, with that extra set, I can basically do another North African tank, Panzer II, using all the photo etch from the other one. And then, since that's not going to be a particular vehicle, I can get kind of creative to make up for any shortages I might have on the fenders. So, not a waste. I think the set was like 11 bucks, 11 or 12 bucks through my favorite retailer, online retailer, and that's US dollars. So, you know, it's not really a big deal. I can use it to good effect. So, enough of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on this lower hull here. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure there's no, there's no sprue gates or anything to cut off. Sometimes, like on the upper hull, there was 3 sprue gates on one side, so those had to be taken care of. The only thing I see here is kind of a raised spot, so make sure that's off. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the parts on the front. So we've got 10 and 11. 10 goes on that side, 11 goes on that side. Now what I'm going to do, if you watched my videos before, you know what's coming up. If you haven't watched my videos, what I do is I demonstrate how I cut the parts off, clean them up, prep them, get them ready, and glue them in place. After I've done that a few times, you kind of get the idea. So for the rest of that particular video, I will do that type of stuff off camera so as to save a little bit of time. So let's see, 11 goes on this side, so let's cut 11 off, and then 10. You see what I did there? The one that goes on this side, I cut off here, cut that one off there. That way, I don't get them mixed up. Now, some parts, it would be really, really hard to do them incorrectly, but it is possible. All right, so once I've got them off the sprue, I trim the rest of this off with my cutter, and then using a sanding stick, in this case a 400 grit Infinity Ultra Precision series. Why? Because I like the size. They're compact. I like them for most things. I like them better than these larger ones. But as my good friend H.G. Barnes can attest, these sanding sticks are really good quality. They last a really long time, really good price, fairly easy to find. I get mine from Sprue Brothers here in the United States, and they just work really well. So if you're looking for sanding sticks, I mean, there's tons of them out there, and there's a lot of really good ones, but these, I can really vouch for these. And as I said, H.G. Barnes can attest to them. He'd asked me at one point how I liked them because he wanted some better sanding sticks, and tried them out, sent me an email and said, love them. So that's really cool. All right, so let's see. That's funny. I just put that on the wrong side, because this one here, see, again, it's like kind of hard to get them wrong because they're only going to fit one way, because this piece right here has to fill in the top. All right, now if you look closely, there's a lot of gaps and stuff like that. It fits positively It fits really well, but it does have gaps. Now, in a case like this, for me, I'm not going to worry about filling that in because the drive sprocket's going to be over top of it, and it's also going to be covering these here, and it's going to be covering this ejector pin mark, so I'm not going to mess with cleaning it up. I'm the type of modeler that, you know, if it really needs to be done, I'll do it, but if not, I'm not going to mess with it because it just adds time to the build. Now, I will probably have to, this right here, I don't know if you can see, but this sits a little bit higher than this and this, so I may have to trim that off, but I'll determine that whenever I do the test fitting with the upper hull. Okay, now here's where I do my usual spiel. And keep in mind that I do these videos with the intention of, or with the hope that beginners are watching, and I try and do them in a way that it's helpful for the beginning modeler. So that's why I do this every video. So we have here Tamiya Extra Thin, and there are other liquid cements similar to it. And the best way to use it, not the only way, but the best way to use it, and I'm pretty sure this is the way it was intended to be used, is, well, let me show you what some people do. Some people will get their part, they know where it's going to stick to the model, and they'll like slather it on there like that, and they'll set it down, put their cap on, and then they'll put it in place like that. Well, during that time, now see, it'll stick, and it will probably stick fine forever, but I've had parts come off doing this because this stuff evaporates really quickly. So to get the best bond, you put your part in position, and then just touch the edge where the part is, and capillary action will suck it into the joint, and that will give you a nice firm bond. You don't have to worry about anything coming loose. So that's just a little tip. Again, lots of people just put it on the part and then stick the part on, and it works fine. I've found that at times it can work loose, and that can be a problem. Because the way this stuff works is it's actually melting the plastic together. It's like welding it. So, yeah. All right, so this one goes over here, and let's see. I want to make sure it's sitting real flat in there, and that the yeah, okay, I just squeeze it in place there. It's kind of a tight fit, so I'm using my tweezers to squeeze it into place, because you want that axle to be 90-degree angle out from the side of the hull. And then doing the same thing, put it along there like that. I'm also going to put some down here like that. I think I did it on this side. Okay, that's all there is to it. So that's the first two parts. So next thing it calls for are these hooks, but I think I'm going to wait to do those till I actually put this in place. That way I can make sure everything's lined up and they fit on there really well. So I'm going to move on to the back and put number 14, which is the rear plate, in place. Now, another tip of the day: keep your lid tight when you're not using it, because as I say, this stuff evaporates really quickly, and I used to leave my sitting on there loosely, and the bottles don't last as long. They evaporate. So just a little tip. Now for parts that are flat like this, sometimes I will cut them right up against the edge like that, because I'm using these cutters that cut really, really close, and they're sharp enough that they won't distort the plastic, so you have a whole lot less to clean up there. If you're wondering what I'm doing with that sprue of parts, I've got peg hooks on a pegboard that I hang all my sprues on for ease of access, so they're not in a box. and they're not on my work surface. Okay, so then I'm just gonna sand this and make sure that the sprue gate is nice and smoothed out. Like that. And then this part is ready to go on. Now, in the illustration, in the instructions, the notches that are in the top go up. And that fits right there. So the other part that goes on the bottom is this one here, which is number 12. And I have no idea what that is. Some kind of weird rod looking thing. So I'm going to cut that off. And excuse me, get that cleaned up. So on this one, I am going to use my scalpel. Thanks, Lloyd. Trim that up a little bit. Same here. And then I'm going to use this sanding stick because there's a mold seam line, mold parting line, whatever you want to call it, along the entire length of this part. So I'm going to sand that off. You can't really see it whenever it's just the bare plastic, but once it gets painted and you start doing weathering and stuff like that, you could run into problems because it'll show up then. Just as sure as shooting. Okay, and this one. Okay, I'm going to use a smaller sanding stick. That's being kind of stubborn. Okay, got it. Okay, so this part goes on the bottom here. Ah, I see. Okay, I don't know if you can see it in the on the video, but there's like a little kind of triangular shaped tab there, and there's a corresponding triangular shaped indentation there. So this goes here like this. So that will kind of help locate it. On the hull. So let me put this in place here. I'm going to hold it. And then take this piece, drop it in place. Whoops. Yeah, it goes right there. So I want to make sure this is lined up here. I want to make sure that it's lined up on the top there. turn it around. Sorry, I'm getting all like all fumbly here. Okay, get it positioned right there. That's where I want it. And then I'm going to take my cement and put along that inside edge like that. Anytime I can apply the cement from the inside, that's the way I like to do it, because that way it won't really mar the finish too bad, but it can if you're not careful. So there we go. Okay, that looks good. Press it firmly in place. Now I'm going to let that dry for a minute before I glue that piece on the bottom. All right, so now I can glue this thing here in place. It's kind of tricky to hold. Oh, now see, there's still some more of that mold seam line there. You know what? That's flexing too much, so I'm going to use my knife to scrape it off. Better. Okay, so put that there and there. Maybe. Sorry folks, I'm being fumble fingers here. That doesn't do anything for quickness of video. Okay, there we go. There's that part. I'm gonna let that side set up for a second before I glue the other. Okay, so that is dry on that side, so now I can do this side. And honestly, I have no idea what that bar is for. The only thing I can think of is it's part of the track tensioning apparatus, maybe? If anybody has any ideas, let me know. I'd appreciate it. Okay, there we go. That looks good. All right, so I got that. So now I can glue on these two, I'm assuming towing hooks, and I can assemble the exhaust, the muffler. So I need parts, 2 parts number 5. Here and here, and then I need the exhaust here. So I need to clean these up same way. This one's got a pretty gnarly mold seam line, a really gnarly mold seam line going on here, so that's going to take some cleanup. So I'm not going to do all of that on camera. I'm just going to use my sanders and get it cleaned up. All right, so you got these parts cut off, and before I glue this exhaust together, I want to hollow out the end of the exhaust pipe, because oddly enough, that's the way they are in the real lives. So here's how I do it. I use little drill bits, but first I drill a pilot hole with my X-Acto blade. And the reason I do that is I seem to be able to center it easier with an X-Acto blade than with a drill bit. I watch people on YouTube and stuff like that all the time, and they can get, with the first try with their drill bit, whatever size they're using, dead center, and it looks phenomenal. Me, I always seem to end up with a concentric or eccentrically aligned hole, if that makes sense. So to do that, to drill it, I'm going to use my Micro Mark drill set here, and I'm just going to find one of the appropriate size. Don't want to get it too thin because there's a chance that I'll break through the edge. So I'm going to try it with this one first, which is a 1 millimeter. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's see the next size. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. That's too much. So I'm just going to stick with the 1 millimeter. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's not quite centered up, but by leaning it into the side that's too thick, you can get it to line up a little bit better. Right there. So that looks pretty good. I'm stoked with that. So I will glue that onto the muffler exhaust thing, and it goes this direction here. Now there's like a diamond shaped, not diamond, yeah, it's kind of a diamond shape if you're looking at it like this. A diamond shaped pin, I guess you'd call it. And for this, I'm going to use this cement here because it's a little slower drying, and I can apply it on here like that. Okay. That looks pretty good right there. So I'm going to set that aside and let that dry really well. And while that's drying, I'm going to put these in position. But first, they need a little bit of cleanup. And for these, I'm going to use the edge of my knife blade. Like this. Okay, so now I can glue these in. And they go right there. Oh, shoot. Like that. And like that. So what I'm doing here is put a little bit of extra, to me extra thin, and really pushing it on there so it kind of fills in the gap around the edge. Okay, there's that. Now this here goes here. Now there's a rectangular protrusion and a corresponding hole, and then a round hole there. Okay, so I'm going to put my cement in from this side here since it's open in the back. And then smooth out that sanding dust a little bit. So there we go. So that pretty much completes step one. So to start the wheels, I need to cut all the wheels off, including the idlers. I need to get them all ready with the famous poly caps that Tamiya uses for wheels. So let me cut one of the wheels off to demonstrate, and then I'll do the rest off camera. Drive sprockets I'll talk about in a little bit. So let's cut. I'm just going to cut them all off right now. And the idlers. Like that. Then it's just a matter of cutting this off and then sanding them. Now, care has to be taken in sanding these because the molding process, let's see if it's visible. Don't know if you can see it on camera, but this edge here is really sharp and kind of flares up a little bit, and that's just because the way these things were molded back in the old days. So that needs to be sanded and kind of knocked down a little bit. It's not really that noticeable, but it is noticeable. So in order to achieve that, I will get a sanding stick. You know what? Actually, I think what I'm going to use is an actual piece of sandpaper like this, and I don't know if you can really see what I'm doing, but basically what I'm doing, this laying flat, I'm dragging it and spinning at the same time. That way it lessens the possibility of a flat spot. So just turn it like that. All the way around until it's knocked that kind of, because the wheel's got almost kind of a cone shape because of the molding process, and this kind of helps tone that down a little bit like that. Then you have like a little fuzz burr around the edge, and to get that off, it's as easy as just scraping it off like that, or you could use another sander. That gets that off of there. Use a soft sanding sponge, and that'll further round off that edge. Voila, that one is ready to assemble and move on. So I'm going to do the rest of these wheels. Okay, due to my inability to push the control button at the right time, I have missed a ton of the stuff that I've been doing. I did it completely backwards. So let me explain what's been going on. After I did the road wheels, I followed the instructions, put a polycap inside of this part, glued this in on all the wheels. Did the same on the idlers. Polycap goes inside, then this little plate right here goes on top of there. Then, using the T-Rex Panzer II sprockets, I cut those off of their bases and discovered that you can put the polycap in there and it slides right on just like the others. Now, I explained in the intro video that the reason I'm using these instead of the kit sprockets is these have 22, I think it's 22 teeth. These have 25, which matches the real deal. So in order to use aftermarket tracks, which is what I wanted to do, because the kit tracks are horribly under detailed, because these were made to work in a motorized vehicle, so it had to go more for strength and usability as opposed to detail, fine detail. So in order to use the aftermarket tracks, I had to get these drive sprockets as well, or else they wouldn't these won't work on these tracks, just like these won't work on these tracks. Because there's a different quantity of teeth, the pitch is totally different. So like about 2 of them, maybe 3 will fit. After that, it doesn't work. So that is why I went with these. Super easy to clean off the base, no problem there. So then, once I did that, I started working on the return rollers. And for the return rollers, I got those cut off, cleaned up, because they had a pretty sharp edge on the back side of the tire portion. And then using my Model Master liquid cement, which is a little thicker in viscosity than the Tamiya Extra Thin, put a little dab on the end of the axle, put it in place, et voila. And just go all the way around like thusly. And there you have it. So that completes step 2, because I'm not putting the wheels on till after I paint and weather this lower section. I'm not putting the spare tracks on until I make the track run for either side of the vehicle to see if I have any extras to do the tracks in the front. And then that's going to be a photo etch part for the bracket to hold it in place. So there's that. Now step 3 is the turret. I am going to skip that, and I am going to go to gluing the upper hull onto the lower hull. Second thought, I am not going to do that yet, because I need to wait for the other part of my the extra fender parts. So yeah, not gonna be doing that yet. So since I really don't want to do the turret yet, I think I'm going to call this particular video quits. So that ends part number 3, assembly of the lower hull. Don't know how long this video is. Hope it's not too long, because that's all we got done. So next time when we come back for part 4, we will be working on this fender here, getting that finished up. Then I can glue this onto here, put these hooks, and start working on more of the hull parts, including photo etch, if I get all the plastic glued on there. So that ends part 3. If you like this video and you want to see more, I will put a link at the end of this video so you can see the intro if you missed that, and then follow along on part 2, and check out some of my other videos. So if you like it, hit subscribe, and you can keep up on all this and not miss out on any of the exciting episodes. So that's it. Thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and part 3 of the Tamiya 1/35 scale Panzer II US capture project. So until next time, I will see you all later.